welcome to Chat with the Chairman. I'm Pam Hepburn, CFMA's 2021-22 Chairman, and today I'm visiting with Tony Stagliano. Tony is the National Managing Director of Construction Industry Services at CBIZ and Mayer Hoffman McCann. Hi, Tony. Thanks for being with me.
Hi, Pam. It's a pleasure to visit with you. It's been a long time. We haven't seen each other in person for God knows how long.
Since 2019, maybe, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I know it was a little hard to schedule this, and I appreciate your making time because you're going on vacation pretty soon. Is that right?
That's correct. I am. As a matter of fact, starting tomorrow. So we're under the wire, just getting this in.
That's exciting. Where are you going?
Going to Bend, Oregon. It's about a couple hundred miles from Portland, kind of in the middle of the state, and just visiting my oldest son.
That sounds nice. Is it the first time you've seen your son since the pandemic?
Actually, yes. He got married in, I guess, in June of 19, and he decided to move to Bend, Oregon in March of 20, the 3rd of March to be exact, and that's the date that they kind of closed the world.
Yeah.
So he just made it under the wire to get to his new home.
Well, that's good that he made it there, and it's nice you get to see him now. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 boys. My wife and I have 2 children. Richard is the oldest, who's the one we're visiting, and David is my youngest son.
And is David local? Have you seen him since the pandemic?
Like 10 minutes from where we live, and we have 2 granddaughters with him, 10 and 12, and they're going on the trip with us.
Wow, that'll be nice.
That'll be a family affair.
Yeah, kind of a family reunion.
Definitely.
So I don't know if you remember or not, August is CCIFP month, and we talked about that, but I don't know if you remember, you taught the CCIFP overview class in 2009 in Las Vegas, and I attended that class. And you and Herb taught it together, and that was the class that made me decide that I wanted to study that summer and sit for the test and be certified.
Well, yes, I do remember very well, actually. I remember you. You were very inquisitive and a little fearful of taking the exam. And it was at Caesar's Palace. I'm sure you remember that. Mm-hmm. It's a long course, as you know. It goes from like 8:30 in the morning till about 4:30 in the afternoon. So I do remember you being a little apprehensive, but I think we calmed you down. It was a success.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that course with you and Herb teaching it just gave me the confidence to do that.
That's what we were trying to do, give people confidence.
And how did the overview class come to be?
The test?
Yeah, the overview class.
The class, yes.
Yeah.
I took the exam with 100, and you were asking why I remember this, you can. 187 people at the conference in New Orleans, and there were, as I said, 187 that took it, 153 passed. Now, it was a daunting task, as you know, just from taking it yourself, but we had no prep course, no real guidance. Otherwise, there's the books, the 2 bound or unbound or loosely bound versions of the book CFMA has, and has many chapters in it. Scared the heck out of me, but we had an 83% passing rate. But they were more of the, I'll call us seniors, experienced people in construction. So that bodes well for the reason we passed so many as a percentage.
So what made you decide to take an overview class?
Yes, that was your question. The answer is, after having taken the test and finding out that I passed in 2004, I expected there'd be a mad dash for people wanting to get the certification, and nobody showed up. Build it and they will come. Well, they didn't come. Okay, so I'm sitting there thinking, why aren't people wanting to sit for this exam? And it dawned on me that they're afraid. They don't really know what they need to know. There's no actual course material out there. We had a little pamphlet that had 10 sample questions in it, and that was kind of scanty, to be honest about it. And I said, I think we need to have an all-day course, just like it's an all-day, you know, 4.5 hour test. I think we need an all-day program. And I decided I'd reach out to my friend, Herb Brownette. Herb's the one that kind of got us into this, and I'll explain that maybe a little later. And I said, Herb, can I come over and see you? You're CFO for a construction company not too far from where I have my office. And went over there and I said, Herb, I got this idea of putting on a course all day, covering all the domains in the test area. And what do you think? And he said, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I said, which ones do you want to take? Which domains? And I was fearful that he was going to say HR, IT, things, project management, things of that nature, which is not exactly my cup of tea as being a CPA and public accountant, although I know a lot about it. Herb, being a contractor, knew way more than I did. So we split it up. I took accounting, his suggestion, I took accounting and reporting, income recognition, taxes. And at the time we had a separate category called joint ventures. That kind of fell under the accounting section later on, but it was the same topic area. So that's how we got it going.
Well, I'm glad you did. Do you remember what year it was when you started teaching the overview class?
I do. It was an interesting start. Again, Herb and I sat down and said, okay, where are we going to have it? I didn't want to wait till a national conference in June or May, depending on what year we're talking about. Let's figure on having one in the Philadelphia area. Let's make it easy on Tony and Herb as far as travel goes. And I came up with the idea, why don't we have it at the Marriott Airport Hotel? It's connected through a connector right to the terminal, and people can come from anywhere. If they want to fly in, it won't be just a local version of this overview course. And so we had it there in 2005, and we actually had, I think, 44 people come as attendees, 2 of them from Hawaii. So it's a good thing we had it at an airport.
Wow.
Yes. And it was a success. We were very happy with the results for the first one.
That's great. Well, I'm glad you did it, because without that course, I don't know that I would have sat for the test, at least not as earlier, you know, in 2009 like I did.
Yeah, well, if we get to talk about the test later on, I'll tell you why I thought that this is a good idea for people like yourself and many others to get over that, get a little bit more in a comfort zone to sit down to take the exam.
So you've taught a lot of classes for CFMA over the years. What got you into deciding that you wanted to teach?
You know, it was a passion of mine from, I guess, early on in my career as a CPA in public accounting. And I had kind of adopted construction as my area that I really enjoyed working in. My first job, my second week in public accounting, was a highway contractor. And it was a little different than I anticipated, because I didn't know exactly what I was going to do in public accounting. But I did enjoy seeing the big trucks roll in, you know, being a big kid, and fell in love with the idea of construction. Met the owner of the construction firm. He didn't say 2 words to me until he literally almost ran me over in the doorway, and he looked up at me, not a hello, but when are you getting rid of those freaking sideburns? And I kind of caught off guard, and I said, well, I was thinking about it. Not that I was, but I figured that was the right answer. And he said, don't think too long. And he left. That was it. That was my introduction to the president of the construction company. And I said, you know what? I like this kind of guy. You know, this is what construction's like. They tell it like it is. So anyhow, I got involved with that. And then I found out that, and early again in my career, that I could do a good job at one topic, one area, but I couldn't be good at everything. So I picked construction. I started taking courses that were offered by the AICPA, American Institute of CPAs, but they were for CPAs, people in public practice, not for contractors and other people ancillary to the industry. And I started teaching those afterwards, but I found out that I learned by either writing on subject matter, doing the research and writing, or teaching the material, because you never know where questions are going to come from, some obscure part of what material you're actually teaching. So it really keeps you on your toes. So that's how I kind of learned by teaching.
And you helped develop quite a few courses for CFMA too over the years.
I have, and I've spoken on, I think, just about every one of them over my career. The Basics of Construction Accounting was the first one. You may be interested in even how that came about. CFMA, unbeknownst to me, and I was on the executive committee before they had terms of involvement on the committee. And I guess I was on there for about 7 years in a stretch. But it was a much smaller organization at the time. And I went to a meeting in San Antonio, and a meeting I didn't start out the way I thought it was. They said, guess what we're going to do? We decided we're going to create educational modules. And we want people to volunteer to teach different areas. So, and they pointed to me and said, Tony, why don't you take accounting? Come up with an accounting topic. And I said, well, we might as well start out with the basics. And that's how the basics of accounting became what it is. And I developed, with help of others, that program. And I think it's still pretty popular as a program.
It is. It's, yeah, every year we have a lot of people that take it. Members and non-members take it. And I know I've had several people from my accounting department take the basics.
Yeah, I always try to stay with the concept of basics because I don't want to assume everybody else knows as much as I do. And I also, I don't want to say this, I try to dumb it down for me, all right? So I can understand it and then teach it that way. And I don't mean it in a demeaning way. I just say it's more understandable if you start out with the basics, build the platform up, and then you can move on to advanced. But yes, I taught that and I developed that. And I also developed financial management for non-financial managers to try to get to the, not the CFMs of a construction company, but the people they rely on to get accurate information. And that's people in the field, the PMs, superintendents, the people that are communicating with the field and the office. And that's why I created that program. I was actually at the bequest of Stuart Binstock and Mike Bellerman, who is the president of ABC National. And they said, Tony, we were talking, I've been trying to get two organizations together, AGC and CFMA as a relationship. But I felt that the second biggest organization, that being ABC, also should be a partner with CFMA. And that was our first foray into joint participation. So,
that's awesome.
But yeah, you name the courses and I probably taught them all.
Well, and recently you helped revise a lot of courses to bring the new Rev Wreck standard into our courses too. How did that go?
That was the whole idea of Rev Wreck, again, learn by teaching. I looked at that new pronouncement as it was evolving. As you were probably aware, it took several years to finally get to fruition and come into play in 2019 as a requirement. But it started at least 6 years before that in its infancy stage when the pronouncement was in exposure draft form. And I looked at it and I said, boy, this is complicated. I better decide to teach this thing. So I volunteered for the 2019 conference, annual conference for CFMA, and I grabbed a fellow colleague of mine, former partner and a good friend, who's now a CFO at a construction company, and I said, "Do you know anything about this?" He said, "Not a thing." I said, "How would you like to learn?" He may rue the day that I did this to him. And we spent many weeks in his office. His owner kept coming in, and he got into conversation. So he was learning a little bit about Rev Wreck, and especially as it related to store materials and things like that. So, and he enlightened us on a couple of things too, is actually how things play out in real life. And then I volunteered my friend John Bieber to speak with me at the annual conference. That was a 4-hour presentation. And it was very interesting, very interesting. We had over 200 people show up, and they stayed. And I actually, this is a little sidebar, is that I had my own Vanna White in the audience. That was, why am I going, Jackie Buck, that her. And I asked her to put these, as a new term or a word came up, I had a flip chart with one word on each page, and stick them to the back of the top of it. And I told her, do me a favor, and as soon as I nod to you, I had them in order, take that next one up and put it on the walls in the room. And we had like 40 of them spread out in this large room by the end of the day. And I said, this is what you have to overcome. You have to understand these new words, right, and what they mean. You know, things like variable consideration, which everybody's familiar with the term. You know, but even things like the contract, they don't call it a contract, it's called a transaction price. What does that mean? Well, it means a contract. We get into multiple performance obligations. The word distinct, what does that mean? And all these words are in the English dictionary, but we never used them in construction. So you had to know what they meant before you knew how to apply the principle. So it was a very daunting task, but I have done several seminars on that with John Bieber. I latched onto him and wouldn't let him go. So he's a true warrior, as is Herb in doing all these other overview courses.
That's wonderful. I mean, our education at CFMA wouldn't be what it is without people who volunteer as subject matter experts, and then people who volunteer to teach those courses. What advice would you have for someone who's thinking about it but is on the fence as far as volunteering to be a subject matter expert or a teacher?
Well, to be a subject matter expert, I think you just have to be, I think you have to be a CCIFP, have almost a passion for teaching. You want to help other people and learn yourself, because you learn every time you teach something else you just stumble upon sometimes that helps you. So that, as far as teaching, you just have to volunteer and mean it when you do it. Get a little disheartened when I see a lot of people sign up for a lot of our committees, and I'm not sure why they do, because they never show up to the meetings. It's put on a resume, and harsh on my point, but yes, I think they have to just not only volunteer but participate. And I know things have changed. They've changed in the very beginning, since 2005, when Herb and I put on that first one in Philadelphia at the airport. He and I have done it several times, probably 15, 20 times since then, as kind of a tag team. I've done it with other people. I've done it with Marge Weber from the Arizona chapter, Phoenix, Arizona, a few times. It's if you know the material, it's easy to teach. Don't be afraid to teach. As far as people taking the exam, first of all, they need to. What I told everybody, including you, when you took the course in 2009, was at the end of this day, which is a full day, I said, my goal as an instructor is that you'll walk out of here saying, I didn't learn a thing. And that usually gets a little bit of a smile if you and kind of a smirk and say, well, what's he talking about? I came here to learn. Well, and then I follow it up with, if you know everything we just covered because you didn't learn anything, then go take the test. What are you waiting for? Okay. But just in case, you may want to stick around for the whole session. And they do. And so it's my attempt to just, then I explain to them how to take the test, what to look for. They always say, well, what do I study? That was part of the reason we put together this material to begin with. It broke it down from all those chapters in the books to just about 6 chapters. Accounting, reporting, income recognition, taxes, project management, HR, etc. But they're all in the book. And then we also told people that don't be afraid to sit for the exam. You know a lot more than you think you do. So, because if you're especially, I'll do this, I'll back up and I'll say, depending on your experience level, I say that if you're a CFO or a controller or a CFM in a construction company, you're probably going to be a little light on the tax area, for example, all right? Especially if you haven't been in public accounting, and even if you're in public accounting, sometimes you never get into taxes. Some firms split those up into accounting and tax, and you never do show fraud. So look at yourself and your background to determine which areas you probably need more help in, right? And focus on those first. And then I also say, well, you've got 4.5 hours to take the test. This is what I did. I say that you break it down into increments and smaller bite-sized chunks, 50-minute, 50 questions, or 1 hour for 50 questions. And then don't go back. Keep going. Do the next 50 in the next hour. Govern yourself to stay within that parameter. And then if you have time, you've got another half hour to possibly go back. Maybe you mark a little X next to, or a check mark next to the question you want to revisit. But I knew myself that there were some questions that I could have stayed there for the rest of the day and the next day and still not get any closer to the answer that got me comfortable. And your first guess, if it's a guess, is probably your best. It was for me in college. Okay, so do that. So if you take that approach, you're going to do okay. You're going to be fine. Don't let it wear you out. We try to make the questions fair and easy to understand. You need to know the material. They're really easy. But again, everybody's a little different.
Well, that's really good advice. I know for a lot of people, it's been a long time maybe since they took an exam. And so just some of that strategy to how to take an exam and pace yourself is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I've said to audiences, and I said before I took my exam, most of the people in that room, again, were more experienced. I might say older. We like to be experienced.
Let's say experience.
And I said, when was the last time anybody in this room took a test? Maybe some of the CPAs that took a CPA exam about maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago or something like that. But most of the people, when they were in school, high school or college, it was a long time ago. And it's a daunting task to think, oh gosh, I have to sit down and actually take a test. So I try to get people over the fear factor. That was my goal.
I know you helped me a lot. I know, Tony, you and I both really understand for ourselves the value of certification and what it means to the industry. But what would you tell people watching this about the value of certification and why they should get certified?
Okay, the value my value proposition is that I want the construction contractor. I think CFMA is for contractors primarily. I think the CCIFP exam is for contractors primarily. The reason I say that is because there are a lot of very, very bright CFMs out there in the construction industry that graduated high school, maybe have an associate's degree from college, or or community college, or they may have their even up to being a CPA. But I felt all along that contractors, CFM, needed this credential. It elevated their stature within the industry. Nobody's going to ask you, what college did you go to? When you say, I'm a CCIFP, a certified construction industry financial professional. They're going to say, wow, you are. Okay. So and when you go to talk to a banker or a bonding company, it's a great advantage to be able to say you CCIFP are the financial person in this company. Right? I know a lot of CPAs out there. They don't know what a receivable retainage is from a regular receivable. Okay? They're CPA. They know how to confirm the balance. There's a lot of it's the construction industry. That's why we have it designated construction industry certified construction professional, because it's the construction industry unique. So that's why I wanted to do it, and I think that's the advantage that individuals should want to have. I encourage my clients every time they advertise for a position in their organization in the financial end, especially if it's a controller or a CFO, number one, CCIFP. They have to be a certified construction industry financial professional. Otherwise, and they're still, the world is not convinced yet about CCIFP. We'll get into that. They think being a CPA, or an MBA, you got all the credentials you need to be in my construction company. Wrong answer. Wrong answer. CCIFP is the right answer. So put that in your description of the position you're searching for. Get your search firm to make sure that was up at the top, right, of the list. Preferred. CCIFP preferred.
That's really good advice. And I know that's exactly the experience that I had getting my certification. When I started at OCP, I was a job cost accountant, and I learned and moved to controller at a certain point, and now I'm the CFO. But our bonding company, our bank, they trust me. They know I know what I'm talking about, but it's easier because I'm certified. So I think that exactly what you said, it lends credibility to that you know what you're doing in your position. Absolutely.
And take it one step further, I would always mention that being a CCIFP and keeping your credential, you have to take continuing professional education credits every year. All right, over a 3-year period. That's a period that's 24 a year. It has to be in the construction area, and every time you fill out your application for your payment and renewal, you have to take basically an oath of ethics and sign off that you wouldn't do anything that wasn't ethical. I have one client specifically I'm thinking of. She was sitting with a bonding company, and they were like saying, well, how do we know, that change order and claim is valid and so forth? And she said, because I certified to that. I said it was, and I took an oath, and I would never tarnish my reputation or the credential that I have. And she put, CCIFP. So it means a lot. I think we take it for granted because we do it as CCIFPs, but there's a lot more behind the scenes than people would realize as to what we are when we become one.
I think that's, yeah, absolutely right. Well, we're just about to the end. I have one more question for you. So you've had been awarded a number of awards through CFMA. Is there any one of them that is that you're most proud of, or is really most special to you?
Well, there is, but I'll preface it with saying it's like, you know, which one of your kids do you like the best? Coming from a parent, right? And you're not going to pick one, right? But I will say, of the ones that I have gotten, and I happen to have it on my desk here. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. It's heavy. There it is.
That's cool.
That is, now, I didn't get this alone. It's presented to me in 2017, ICCIFP Founders Award for the ICCIFP, along with Don Stevens. Don Stevens and I go way back with the process before there was an exam, way before there was an exam. We were starting to ferret out questions, and we didn't know what the heck we were doing. Okay, we were just reading questions and looking for the site in the book to guarantee that that was the right answer. But yeah, Don Stevens and I got this award together as the two founders of the ICCIFP. So I'm very, very proud of that, because that's for something specific. The other awards were kind of general, but they're good. I'm not saying anything bad about them. Wonderful. But you know, like a leadership award. This is CCIFP, right? Directly to that designation, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our fellow CCIFP.
Well, as an organization, CFMA is really lucky to have you, and all of the volunteering that you've done with our organization. I know I talked to Pam Hummel last month for the July episode, and when I was at the end of the episode, when I was saying who our August guest was going to be, I said Tony, and Pam Hummel said, yeah, Tony is a legend. And I think she's absolutely right there.
Well, thank you.
So at the end of our Chat with the Chairman series, every time we like to ask our viewers a question. So if you guys would comment down below, our question this time is, if you are certified, tell us why you decided to get certified. And if you're not certified yet, tell us what's keeping you from getting certified. So give us your answers. We're excited to hear from you. I hope you'll join me next month for the next episode in September. Cal Beyer will be my guest, and he is the Vice President of Workforce Risk and Wellbeing at CSDZ.